I'm going to start by saying I am not a I, Shane Yaw, my real name, go on record saying I am not a
I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright.
Hi backpack, welcome back to the cave. While you're here, take a seat, make yourself comfortable, click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and smash the like if you like the video. If you don't like the video, also smash the like. So, welcome back to the many faces of Shane Dawson. This is the second part of the apologies. I'm going to do the two remaining ones in this one video to get that out of the way, because we need to move on to Dramageddon and we need to move on to Guilt by Association, which are the next two parts. So what I'm going to do is just basically, I'm going to quickly run through, like, when we look at apologies, what do we expect to see from that? What is the what is the thing that we'd like to see when we say an apology? We want to know that somebody's legitimately sorry. How can we tell that? So I was aware of a video shared with me by a friend, thank you very much, by a marvellous gentleman called Clay Ansell. I've linked it down below for you to have a look at. But it basically goes through 4 apologies, like a fake apology, and what the signs of that are, and what we would see, and why sometimes people will apologise and it won't seem like it's a genuine apology. So a few of those are just things where you start your apology and the way that you apologise, like "I'm sorry but," is sort of a blaming thing. It's an excuse. It doesn't acknowledge, it doesn't mean you're taking accountability. It might make somebody understand something, but it's so "I'm sorry but," and if that happens a lot, then it's basically just an excuse all the time. I'm sorry that you. So this is putting the onus on you because you're the one that's bothered by it. I'm sorry that you are offended, which is no good really. You know, I'm so sorry that you are sorry, I'm just sarcastic. I'm sorry if there's another bad way to start an apology. It doesn't really come across. I'm sorry if. What does that even mean? If. I'm sorry if I did this. How can you acknowledge that you've done something if you're saying if? Because if, by its very nature, is iffy. There's another one called the Deja Vu Apology, which is where, you know, I have already apologised for this, which is designed to guilt trip you into not bringing it up anymore and shut up about it, basically. So, and you know, when somebody says, "I didn't mean to do this," all right, you didn't mean to do it, that's all right, but as part of an apology, that's no good, because, you know, I didn't mean to murder people, but, you know, I'm sorry, Your Honour, but I didn't mean to do that. And, you know, can you imagine the judge, the point that Clay makes is, can you imagine the judge going, "Oh, that's fine then, well, if you didn't mean to do it, you know, it's fine, don't worry about it." And then blanket apologies is like, you know, "I'd like to apologise for everything." So what are you apologising for? In order to mean an apology, you have to know what you did that you need to apologise for. So, and he also talks about, like, making amends. Like, how do you do that? You do that with your actions, so you try not to do that same thing again. That's basically what it comes to. So what are we seeing in Shane? Are we seeing that kind of behaviour in Shane? So the apology, well, it's sort of, I say, I've listed it as an apology, but it's debatable really, because it starts off with a lot of shouting and swearing, because he's annoyed that he's been accused of doing something awful. I think that was pretty obvious in the beginning segment of the video, and I couldn't use much of that video in this one because there's a lot of swearing. So he acknowledges this sort of that he's, you know, he's sorry that he used to tell easy jokes, like he used to go for shock value in jokes. He does say that it was the clip that he's referring to where he was talking about a young girl, which is on the first video in the series, is was edited, and the bits where he was saying it was horrible, it was sick, it was creepy, were edited out. And he said that his whole shtick with his co-host on the podcast, Shane and Friends, was that he said something so shocking that it would make her laugh. And that was the whole thing. However, what we're finding is that it's less justifiable as time goes on. It was never justifiable at all, but people are becoming more and more outraged the more they hear it, the more they know. But there's other things that go with this, but we'll come to that in a bit. So he says that he's sorry if it triggered you. Now Shane is a victim himself of a similar nature. I can't really say the word, but he says he's sorry if it triggered you. It triggers me. I don't find it funny anymore, and that's fair enough. It could be even that because he was a victim himself, he felt entitled to make those jokes. That's not a justification, but it's like, well, when you feel like a victim, to make a joke on behalf of a victim, I suppose, is something that you think you're entitled to. It's not always the case, though, because everybody's different. So, you know, and he does do a bit of the sympathy card, and he said it's hard because he's in such a good place, and he'd been in such a bad place before. And that the podcast was 6 years ago, and it's just a shame that it's a thing. So he was doing very well throughout this apology. The swearing's not good, the shouting's not good. I get you're annoyed, you've been accused of something you think you didn't do, so I get it. However, it's not a good way to start an apology. You can start and say, look, I didn't do this, I wouldn't do this, let me tell you why, explain. That's fine, but the very defensive nature of it and the rage attached wasn't helpful. You know, every time somebody overreacts to something like that and they come on and they're shouting and screaming, most people in their head are going to think, methinks they do, but they'll just protest too much, you know, like that whole Shakespeare line of, you know, if you're kicking off about it this much, something's wrong. So anyway, so then we've got the most recent apology, called that he's just entitled taking accountability. He says that he was sort of burying his head in the sand, that he was deleting tags on Twitter, etc., to stop his name being associated with the old material. He acknowledges, quite rightly, that his old apologies suck. That's really important, because he does address that in his head he was just thinking, I wasn't being racist, it was just a character I was playing, and he still believed that. And he said that he was inspired by Jenna Marbles to make this apology video, and that suggests maybe that he's pondering on not coming back to YouTube. However, he did say he's proud of what he's making and will continue to make, so it's kind of 50-50 at this point. We're not sure. Another good thing that he did was he addressed that nobody needs to accept his apology. This is important, and the reason this is important is because when you're sorry for something, of course the other person doesn't need to accept your apology. And if you've apologised, saying that they'll, you know, with the intention of getting them to just making everything go away, that's the wrong reason to apologise, isn't it? It's not what we want to see. We want to just go, I'm so sorry about this. And if that person never speaks to you again, then so be it. That's on you, isn't it? So that's just what happens. But if you're genuinely sorry, you say you're sorry, you mean it, and you go on to live your life a different way. So it's important that he said that he recognised that nobody needs to accept his apology. His apology really, and any apology, I have to be honest, is more about your personal growth. If you're saying sorry about something and you mean it, it needs to be a learning experience. When you say sorry and you just do the same thing over and over again, Tara Mungo, you're not really learning anything from that. It's just the same thing. You're apologising. You're saying, I apologise, but... So you're making excuses for it, so that apology is not genuine to start with. And then when it comes to making amends, you repeat the same behaviour. So that means that you're not changing anything about yourself, which means there's no amends and there's no genuine apology there. So it's important that he did that. He said that he's not proud of the content he's made in the past. He addresses the homophobia and the racism, etc. And he says that he is not proud of that person. He doesn't like, he hates that person, and he says he was insecure and he would project and things like that. And that's fair enough, but we doesn't need to disassociate himself. That was him, and the person that he was then, highly flawed as that person was, is the person that led to Shane now. So if Shane has learned from his behaviour in the past, it's important that he went through that, because he may be better for it in the long term. I hope that that makes sense. And you need to forgive yourself as well. If you're genuine, you need to forgive yourself for what you did, because if you don't forgive yourself, then you'll forever be disliking yourself. And how can you possibly expect anybody else to care about you and love you if you don't do that for yourself? It's really important. He acknowledges also that he was taking everything as an attack. Any criticism that he was given was taken as an attack on him. This is not always the case, and I don't know, it's an unusual environment Shane was in, because he was in social media on YouTube, and it's a very different environment from being in a normal job. Now, you know, in normal jobs, you should have like assessments, ongoing feedback, you know, meetings, one-to-ones, things like this that coach you and support you as you go along. Now, he didn't not only have the support, he might have had some enablement, but he didn't have really support of more experienced people in the field of YouTube, because YouTube was quite new. And he didn't have the whole coaching thing, you know, this is what you've done. There was only Shane to police Shane, and Shane was wrong. Shane was young and silly and ignorant, for want of a better word, no offence, but ignorance just means lack of knowledge, and that's exactly where he was, and he didn't have any guidance. And this is a case for a lot of YouTubers. Nobody gives you a how to use YouTube handbook, and you just go onto the platform and you do your thing. And there are lots of very young YouTubers who are way wise beyond their years. The likes of, I don't know, D'Angelo Wallace, Adam McIntyre, just to give two examples of sort of commentary YouTubers who are wise beyond their years and can, you know, they don't discriminate, and they understand that equality is important and that we shouldn't be doing things like that on this platform. It doesn't make them any less funny, it doesn't make them any less intelligent, and it doesn't make them any less entertaining to watch. And they don't need to discriminate against anybody. And that's the best way to do that, I think. Occasionally they will poke fun at themselves in the nicest way possible, but that's just how it is. So I think he didn't have, I'm not excusing and I'm not enabling. What I'm trying to do is understand. And the reason why I'm trying to understand the past is so we can look to the future and see where we go from here. He says that he found the criticism attacks. So we'll go back to that point. Obviously, when some people criticize things on YouTube, these people aren't used to being a critic as such. And what they do is they just go blah. And you find that sometimes there's a good point in there, and sometimes there's a point that you want to come back to have a conversation about. And other times it's just passive, well, most times it's just passive aggressive shit. People comment if they're not happy with your content. Because most people would probably just not continue to watch that. It's not a case of they would I don't know why people feel the need to leave that there, but some people who are active subscribers of channels will leave comments and say, I really like this, but I would like to see more of this. And that's great. That's what we want to do. We want to see more of that. I really enjoyed it when you did this. Can you look at this? That stuff's amazing, and that stuff's the lifeblood of creators, because when you're at a sticky end, for want of a better term, that inspires a creator to do other things, you know, when they find out other information and people share that with you. It helps to spur on a new thing for a creator to do. So that's really useful. And the fact that this that people were telling them, such as Francesca was trying to tell him that his content was racist and he would not listen, and he was blinkered. And he had already apologised for blackface. But how can you apologise for something if you don't realise it's actually wrong in the first place? If you realise it's wrong, then yeah, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. You know what, it's like, ugh. Trust me, I know I've had to make my fair share of apologies. And not all of them were genuine, but there are nowadays. So there you go. So he made a joke about killing somebody. Not funny. But he says it wasn't about Francesca, who he was battling with at the time. He does play the sympathy card a little in the final apology, and that's disappointing. And he addresses a conversation he had with his, I think it's his cousin, about, they were having, he calls it the birds and the bees talk, and he says, he does rightly say it was gross, dumb gross shit, is how he describes it. And you know what, he's absolutely right, it was disgusting. He was having a conversation with his niece about things that his cousin, that you should not be talking to a young girl about as an older boy. And the thing that lets this apology down for me is that he was quite dismissive of that. And okay, people, different families are different, and his family apparently found that funny. However, he did say that he shouldn't have put it on the internet, absolutely right. But there are other clips of him with young girls where he's making suggestive comments, telling them that they should be showing more. And I know it's done in a kind of jesty, jokey way. However, he did swap gum with a 12-year-old girl on one occasion at a fan meetup, or he kissed a 12-year-old girl and swapped gum with another girl, which is not appropriate behaviour and wasn't very well thought through. And this was all on YouTube, by the way. That's yeah. And YouTube, like I said, only removed it when this whole kick up of a stink came up. And that was James Charles associated. And I don't know if that's a coincidence or not. Not put anything on James, but somebody who knows James. We'll get to that in the next video. So there you go. What we've looked at is kind of what's a false apology, what are signs of that. Again, do check out that video down in the link down below. I'll also put links to Adam McIntyre and Angelo Wallace's videos and the original apology videos as well for you to look at yourself, see what you think. I've tried to keep this video a bit more succinct than the last one so it doesn't go on forever. And in the next episode of The Many Faces of Shane Dawson, we will be covering Dramageddon. See you next time. Bye bye.